Alright guys, welcome back to VALORANT News. Massive rumours and new confirmations overnight with Zellsis joining Sentinels officially and explaining just exactly why he came to this decision given the fact that he had other offers on the table. Zellsis prefers to be the substitute player for the new Sentinels roster, planning to return to the team at some point in the near future. Could he pull a Marved from the most recent season? That is certainly a big question. Very much enjoyed your perspective in the comments below. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. No emergency video last night, but we're going to catch up with all the action today and maybe more to come. Flynn says yay. Now, I don't think there's anything in this yet. I'm sure he will be releasing a new spreadsheet today. I think there wasn't too many updates on it yesterday, but nonetheless, it doesn't mean things aren't happening behind the scenes right now. Fnatic have confirmed, just if you guys are Fnatic fans and you're still a little bit concerned, they might do what just happened with Evil Geniuses and roster changes might be happening. Kojo says, don't worry, stop checking, the playing staff isn't changing. We were like 24-3 on the season. Unless there was big internal drama, then we wouldn't be making a change. So Fnatic aren't changing a thing for next season. That is effectively confirmed now. This also from Cloud9. When I saw this, I was like, as soon as they cut things off, I was like, are they just baiting for impressions? The issue is with this, so basically they come out with a statement. We're pleased to announce a significant transfer agreement between two prominent esports organizations. The transfer marks an exciting moment in competitive gaming world, and etc, etc. Now, this is intended to look like, as far as I'm concerned, one of these tier 1, tier 2 agreements. So if you guys aren't aware, recently Riot confirmed that for the new season, it's possible for tier 1 teams to partner with tier 2 teams so that instead of having a substitute player on Cloud9, they could effectively utilize any of M80's players if they wanted to make a change. So, you know, there would be a relationship where Cloud9, if they wanted to make a roster change, could speak to M80 and say, hey, we want Nismo, we want, you know, we'll see the players actually on M80 in a second who might be coming back and who might not be, and they could sign them up. Now, M80 would get compensated for this, but M80 would also be liable so that if C9 wanted to make a roster change right before M80 were just about to go to the Ascension tournament, you know, they'd be in a bit of a tricky spot there, and they would have to integrate the Cloud9 player that got dropped into their team. So I'm not sure that whole, you know, tier 1, tier 2 arrangement, maybe it works for financially lesser well-off tier 2 organizations, but for those that are really intending to win Ascension, it's probably counterproductive. So that's why I saw this and I was surprised that M80 would come to an arrangement like this with Cloud9. It just didn't really make any sense. And it's obviously not true because M80 come out with this and say, effective immediately, the following details have been finalized, post on Cloud9 for impressions, post on M80 for impressions. So, yeah, you know, impression farming stuff for no reason. I don't really get this style of impression farming. I find it a bit annoying just because you're going to pretend you're doing a cool thing for the scene and good business, and then it's just fake. Like, it doesn't really make people think more highly of your organization as far as I'm concerned. But speaking of M80, this is the roster here that Purist revealed yesterday, that 3 of the players are going to re-sign to M80. Koala Noob is coming back, Nismo is coming back, which is, I think, a shame again that Nismo hasn't got a franchise spot, but whatever. I think M80 will be good enough to win Ascension again, with Xander staying around. Now, we'll get to Nitro in a second. Xander was linked maybe to 100 Thieves, but that now seems less likely. We think Boostio's going there. We don't know what's happening with EU, and the thing is, EU has not re-signed. So is EU going to Cloud9? Is he going to 100 Thieves? That's an option, possibly, and you'd imagine that if he hasn't re-signed, it's because he has an offer from somewhere in the franchise league, at least for now. So Xander's coming back. That means no franchising for him, nor Koala Noob, nor Nismo. But Nitro is set to return, which is kind of wild, right? I'm surprised, maybe pleasantly, to be honest, I'm pleasantly surprised that Nitro's back in Valorant. But in Tier 2 is surprising to me that he would do this, because, you know, he was on 100 Thieves, then he went to, well, of course, he went to play Counter-Strike this past season, and now he's coming back to play in Tier 2. So must be giving a pretty, you know, tasty offer here from M80 from a salary perspective, but Nitro will come in as, I guess, the IGL here of the team and lead Nismo, Koala Noob and Xander with a 5th that is as yet undecided all the way to the promised land. I mean, look, the Guard and M80 were the 2 teams that were fighting it out for Ascension qualification. This time it was the Guard that made it. Next year, I'm sure M80 feel like it can be them that make it, and they will be very keen to do exactly that. And it definitely feels like with this roster, with Koala Noob, Xander, Nismo, and Nitro as a quartet to start the team with, Like, that's got to be a team. Like, the only ones that haven't re-signed, of course, is EU and then John QT. John QT's gone to Sentinels. EU, I'm guessing, has gone to, well, I've mentioned a couple of teams he might be linked with. And now M80 are left with this, which is far from bad at all, right? And on this evidence, they should be in prime position to try and win Ascension again for next season, as the Guard did this time around. Now, a couple of things that have been spotted here. Firstly, some scrimbucks on the new Cloud9 team. So we've got, Imi, Zeppa, Jake against, Baby Bay, Corey, GMD, so like a TSM looking thing, and then Whippy. So this is the thing with Whippy, right? There's been some questions. Will Whippy get a spot again? Because Vanity and everything, like, coming back into Cloud9, will Whippy come back in? And there's been some debate as to whether that should or should not be the case. It's not going to blow me away if that happens, but they're at least practicing with him, as we can see here in this screenshot. There's also this that has been spotted, potentially some new iterations of, SR, right? Because we've got Vic, we've got Marder, and I think it's possible at the very least that the Moist Moguls guys are getting picked up elsewhere. SRR, again, a legit organization with money behind them, and so the likes of Flyer and Thief and others have been spotted playing with some of these Shopify Rebellion guys. So we'll see if that goes anywhere. It's potentially just trials for now, but I thought Flyer might get a spot in Tier 1 actually, so we'll see what happens there. Now, this is another big one. Aspas right now is one of the biggest questions in the world of Valorant. He's leaving Loud, that is clear enough. Where he goes, we don't know. Leviathan are trying everything to get him. Bleed Esports are probably giving him a mad bag. He might still go to NRG. We talked yesterday that, it could be Demon 1, could be Aspas, it could be Ethan, could be Sadak. Like, they could do a combination of all of those players that you guys were suggesting in the comments section. And now Furia want Aspas in as well. They, according to Noyan, will make a very interesting proposal for him to potentially get Aspas in Furia alongside Muzera, which would be wild. So, he's got some big decisions to make here, but he has, I'm sure, plenty of offers on the table, and he can just sit back and relax as the offers come in and say, I'm not really sure about this amount of money, and then they come back with a bit more money, and, we go from there. However, the big news from yesterday, hands down, is Zellsis returning to Sentinels. This was confirmed yesterday. Spreadsheets didn't catch this one, so this has kind of come out of nowhere, really. We knew that Zellsis had gone somewhere and had signed a contract. We weren't really sure where, and I guess it does make sense in hindsight that a return for Zellsis to Sentinels makes a fair bit of sense. So here he is, having a good time as usual, and he commented on this on stream. I want to just share what he said on this, because it's very interesting to hear his perspective. He knows that esports are in a tricky spot right now, and if he was to go and join Cloud9, as he decided to the most recent season, it can end quite badly. We know what these organizations have done. He feels like Sentinels is a good spot, especially for the content side of actually making money in esports as well. Makes a lot of sense. But he's kind of turned down starting offers in order to make this happen. So, there's a debate as to whether he should have done or whether he shouldn't have done. I think probably on the whole a good decision for Zellsis, but he's made it very clear that he wants to keep competing. And, as it stands, there are no options on the starting roster.
I decided to join SEN as a 6th. For a lot of reasons. One, I kind of regret not joining them at the start of the year. I think the way that the economy right now with esports and franchising and everything is a little spooky. It's a little scary. I had a lot of offers to compete everywhere. NA, APAC, and EMEA. Very good offers on very good teams. I will not disclose. But there were very good offers on very good teams. Some teams were championship-ready teams. Other teams were bag teams, like a lot of money. But I would have liked to have stayed in NA, but I came to SEN because I thought SEN was like the next. When I first started franchising, I wanted to stay with that org for as long as possible and retire under that org if possible. And I think with SEN I can do that. And yeah, I also think joining SEN, they will help me build my brand even more than what it is. So we're going to be focusing a lot on content this year. Now, that's not saying I'm retiring. I'm definitely not retiring. I want to compete. Sentinels know I want to compete. But the way esports is right now and everything else, I wanted a little bit more stability in my life. So I ended up joining SEN just because, you know, they're stable, they love me, I love them, and we have an understanding for each other. So yeah, that's why I joined SEN.
So it seems he's made it quite clear to Sentinels and to Kaplan and to the others that, look, I want to play. I'm not just here to sit on the bench and do nothing all year. I want to make moves. Now, let's not forget Marved, another phenomenal player. Marved, great player. Zellsis, great player. Marved, obviously, more accolade in his career. But Zellsis, I think, feels to me like too good of a player to be on the bench. You know what I mean? And it was the same with Marved last season. So, but I kind of get it. The way that esports are right now, I get it from Zellsis, but it is quite clear that he wants to play again, and he will stay on SEN until retirement, but he wants to play on the starting team at some point, and intends to do that. Marved didn't start last season with the same intention, but it quite quickly became clear that Marved wanted to return to competing, and there was an option on Sentinels because they dropped Def, they needed someone to come in, Marved subbed in. Well, actually, Tens got unwell, and then Marved came in, and then the whole Def thing happened, and they thought, you know what, Marved staying around, it makes the most sense. So Marved ended up playing on the roster. That is not guaranteed to happen for Zellsis, though, because Sassy, Pancada, John QT, Tens, and Zekken, it's pretty nice. And Zellsis as the sixth man is a really stacked unit there on Sentinels. So maybe they can use him on certain maps, certain situations. They might do what other teams have done and make changes mid-series, but seems a little bit unlikely. But if Zellsis goes 3-4 months stuck on the bench, he's going to be whispering in Kaplan's ear like, look guys, you're not looking so good, maybe have a look at me. So it's going to make things interesting, but it's also going to keep the players on the starting Sentinels roster on their toes, right? They can't just sit back and relax when you've got a very solid player like Zellsis on the bench ready to sub in if the team underperforms. So, there's been some talk about what agency he's going to play, about whether he's going to replace Tens, but that seems a little bit unlikely. And I will say that Zekken has done it again. We saw the other day Exalt revealing, it seems, the NRG roster a couple of days before it was revealed, and we also get this from Zekken, who said welcome to Zellsis when he was signed, and then turns out like, yeah, he's back on the money again. So this is the thing, Zekken 2 years in a row now has leaked something which turns out to be entirely accurate. So I guess stay tuned. Whatever Zekken says next probably won't be true, but then maybe the one after will be. I don't know. It's just the game that these guys quite enjoy playing. And funny timing, really, because as Shroud then responds and says, oh, like Zellsis is back, maybe it's time for Shroud to make his return as well, in the absolute madness of a season that was 2022. So that's pretty much where it's going to end for today. If there's big announcements tonight, could well be another emergency video. We will see. There'll probably be a few every week going on nowadays because there's a lot happening. So don't forget to subscribe if you have not already. As I've said before, massive growth over the last few days. Massively appreciated. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Take care of yourselves, and I'll see you next time.